Welcome to the Awesome Games Done Quick 2025 video submission of mine for the All Gems category of Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color. For those of you who are watching this video, I will be showing off a few different runs of this category in various different settings to demonstrate what the run looks like at its best, but also demonstrating what the run may look like if things go wrong, but also in runs where both may happen. One of these runs, and the very first example that I'll be presenting, is going to be a run that was performed in a live setting for the Speedrun Marathon Midwest Speedfest 2024. This will demonstrate what the run looks like with a live audience. Other runs in here may be overdubbed with extra commentary to demonstrate what types of commentary may be used on different levels, and a few different possibilities that may occur in certain levels over others. Thank you for your consideration.
All Gems. Take it away. Good luck.
Alrighty. Hello. Welcome back to Midwest Speedfest. I'm Aaron, but you can call me Glass. I'll be doing a run in the All Gems category of Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color. This category, everything is going to kind of happen really quickly, so if I don't get through everything properly explained, you might be hearing about it about a level afterwards or two. It's a fast-paced game. Luckily, All Gems is a little bit more forgiving in any percent moves extremely fast. All Gems, there's a little bit more room for error on certain levels, and I'll be able to better explain kind of what's going on, a few of the major concepts of the game, and so on and so forth, while achieving all the objectives that we are going after. So, I'm on the menu screen, but I'm going to reset first, and I figured it's only appropriate that we name this after the event that has graciously allowed Midwest Speedfest to be a thing. That seems very appropriate. Shout-outs to VGMCon for allowing us to hold this event for as many years as we have. All right, folks. I hope you're as excited as I am. It's not often I get to show off a challenging category like this, so here we go. All Gems, I'm going to give the countdown in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Good luck.
All right, it's off to the races. So, the first thing you need to know about All Gems is that it's a lot more expansive compared to any percent. So the routing that I'm going to be taking is going to be a lot different. Each level has 16 gems, and I will be grabbing every single one of them 16 times over. You might notice me kind of just hopping all over the place. Ooh, first death. Right away. That's fine. And that just goes right into a perfect discussion topic of hitboxes. Let's just say the hitboxes are really big, and sometimes you'll just get caught in the thick of them, and there's nothing you can do about it. The cars are particularly some of the worst, but you'll get to see a few more examples of that. I guess another good topic to talk about while I'm running this game would be, of course, the rhythm. A big component of running this game for me would be that I like to treat the game like a 4/4 meter. So you'll see certain rhythms that are going on here. So like the 4/4 meter is going with the game's soundtrack. So those are like eighth notes. The fastest I usually move in this game is triplets, as you can see right now. Triplets are generally quick enough to meet what I would quantify as task routes, or what would be considered task routes for this game. And because I died, I have to wait on the cycles for the turtles. That's another thing. Cycles are going to be important in the first one. You want to see something cool? It's hard to explain, but there are just a few tiles where you can walk on water. The game kind of freaks out. It only has so many checks that it can run, and it treats certain areas like they're still scrolling objects, so that is one of like 5 tiles in Frog Pond that does that. There will be a few more, but I'm not going to be able to showcase any of them. Any percent has one more that is useful. And that's another all gems level completed. Going into this next level here, kind of have to just know what I'm doing. This first half, a lot of these are quantified by, like, first half is going to be you have to just, like, meet the routes that you have. And then these next parts here, there's a lot of leeway. Things move pretty slowly on these second half, so you have just kind of room to relax a little bit, and then you have to just, you know, hop back to it. And that's kind of the theme of all gems, is lots of hopping quickly in bursts, followed by very slow progression. So you see that one up over there? There's a gem hidden under it. And you wouldn't know this unless you casually play the game as long as I did. I've missed that many times, simply because I hadn't, like, ran all gems in, you know, a good while. So, you know, it is easy to forget that sort of thing. And, yeah. This is a bit of a slower level, so I'm just going to be kind of chilling out here, and we'll see what the turtle cycles provide me here, because I did have one death in level 1, and that might change things a little bit. Alright, met that cycle in time. We'll see if I can get to the last gem in time, and it's one of the most satisfying sound effects in the game. It doesn't get much better than that. Everything else in terms of sound effects is a little too sharp. Hurts the ears. And now we're at the first of the spider and bat layers, as I like to call them. In any percent or all gems, you are required to collect every single one of the gems in each of these stages. There's a few death warps that we take. We got a few more to go. And I did get the early cycle here, so that's the first level done. So, the creators of this game were smart enough to think about, like, you can save both the frames and the animals at the same time, learning a thing or two from Super Metroid. Just figured I'd, you know, say that right now. Ooh, losing a few lives here. That's fine, we're good. That will happen sometimes when you have, like, a bunch of branching paths like these ones here. Sometimes you just have to, like, improv stuff on the fly, like I am right now. Alright. So a few minor hiccups, but that's fine. We expect a few of those, you know, as we go through. Another one where you're going to see a lot of branching for certain gems. This one would be fairly straightforward in any percent, but in a category like this, you have to kind of just get ready to go from one section to the next. Okay. And that went just fine. I don't have too much to say about these tiles here, otherwise I have a nickname for them. It's called Simon Says, and there's 3 faces of them. Ooh, okay. Normally I don't make mistakes here, but that's fine. Yeah, we're done there. We got a life too, that's nice. So, every time you get 10,000 points, you do pick up an extra life. And in all gems, we'll be getting way past the max. It will only show up with 5 frogs, but you can get as many as like 9, 10 extra lives in the process of a category like this. In any percent, it can be even lengthier, so at some point or another, I'll be less worried about my lives, but like at the moment, this level here is actually, you know, playing the most efficient route. So what you see might look a little slow, but it is pretty close to what the world record does. And we'll grab this because there's time for it. There's a lot of leeway to grab that checkpoint. Some other levels don't allow for that, but if we can play it safe in a marathon and go fast, I'll do it. So this is another phase of Simon Says. There are some gems on the side we have to grab, and if we don't, we'll regret it. So let's grab them right now, shall we? Alright. And that's another one done. This here is one of the toughest levels. We're going to be doing a little bit of waiting. How's everybody doing? Awesome, awesome. Glad to hear. Yeah, so we had to wait that cycle right there. If we grab the gems, we are forced to kind of just wait out each of the cycles. And, alright, that's part 3. I'm going to play it a little carefully here, because there's a lot of opportunities to make some mistakes. Ooh, like that, for example. So unfortunately, because I died there, I have to go right back from the very beginning. There is no checkpoints. But I did collect an extra 1-up. We'll see. I'm going to be collecting a lot of those, so plenty of leeway for error in that sense. Alright. And so we got one more phase, as Simon says, coming up right now.
Mind if I read a donation during that?
Go for it.
All right. We have a $10 donation from Sean who says, "Glad to be in the crowd in person to support my buddy Glass for his run today. We both went to the same university and haven't seen each other since 2020, so it's been a long time coming."
Shoutouts to Sean, VGM.
And that went toward the Ultima category upgrade, so we have $135 more we need for that. 15 out of 150.
Alright, second spider lair. Now, I hope you like reverse conveyor belts, because I'm about to show what those look like right now. And that is like one of 3 or 4 that we'll be confronting. They're very fun. Also pretty challenging. When I first learned the reverse conveyor strats, oh, that's weird. Okay, I've never seen that before. So I did not grab the gem, and the character got killed off before I could acquire it. Gonna have to play this carefully. All right, and we're done with that world. I hope you like ice physics, because that's the entirety of this level here, and also fish RNG. Yeah, it's unfriendly. Very, very unfriendly. And we might get our first game over here. I figured for each game over, I'll donate $5. Alright, got through that one just fine. And I guess I figured I'd talk about these fun-looking individuals right here. The game calls them Pelcharski penguins. Not sure why, but when I was doing a quick search this morning, Pelcharski is Polish for power, I think. So I think they were trying to like find a workaround way to call them Emperor penguins. They don't look like Emperor penguins, and I wouldn't have guessed, but you know, that's not for me to think about. So this level right here is what I like to call YOLO level 3, because you can go super fast on it, but fish RNG will not allow for that, especially in a marathon, where you have to be very careful. I grabbed a checkpoint here, makes it a little more forgiving, but there is still a lot of places like that, for example, where you can go fast, but there's nothing you can do if like the fish is like on a certain cycle. So yeah, I had to wait carefully on that one. The fish have certain patterns. Ah, yes, lovely. All right. Ooh, that was close. Now we're gonna carefully wait it out. Ooh, okay, that's our first game over. That's fine. We expected at least one of those. That's okay. This is a brutal game. Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color is part of a series where simple mistakes will be punished very easily, and you got to see a great example of that in action. Oh, bad fish RNG. The fish are not being very kind today. We would hope for more from them, but no, not this time. All right. Ooh, that was a little close. I cut that just a close. All right. Yeah. Classic fish. All right, we're back to YOLO level 3. Let's get this right a second time. Okay, I was about to say, it'd be kind of funny if they were completely behaving as, like, intended the second time around. Sometimes you'll have, like, one attempt where... Okay, never mind. What am I kidding? The fish are proving me wrong today. Shoutouts to fish. We kind of expected that. Oh! They're out for revenge. I've had so many runs where I've been able to barely avoid them, but right now they're just... they're really in for it. Just gonna have to laugh at my own misfortune in that sense, because sometimes... Okay, we are playing it safe. Alright, we're finally fasted. There we go. That is a tough level. I mean... The fact that I got through it without a second game over is, I'll take it. I will take it for what it's worth. This level's a little bit more fun. Hey, another one up. We'll take those. Alright, there is a very possibility. Okay, and we're good there. That one was not too bad. We have a lot of hopping to do on this particular level. I have to kind of just travel around the world to collect a whole bunch of these. So we can be right in time for that Pelcharski penguin. And then another set right there. And the fish was kind this time. Waited out my, my time went in the opposite direction. Alright, we'll see how this strat goes. Alright. I'm gonna kind of just carefully wait this one out. There we go. So I just lapped that yesterday. I did not have a strat for this level originally, and now I do. That one just as planned. Alright, third spider lair. This one, you're gonna see really the true effects of like what a death warp does. In a casual playthrough, this takes a long time to learn. You know, these bat cycles here, they move diagonally, and once you learn that you can move fast enough where they can kind of just like touch you in slightly in the corners, but not in the way that kills you, this level becomes a lot easier. You know, when you're not under stress, that's like the big thing. And we're finally out of the ice caves and onto the lava pits. This level is, this world's also pretty brutal too, but for completely different reasons from the ice caves. For one, there's bees, and they move really, really aggressively fast. Ooh, hey, okay. So sometimes I'm able to catch the cycles in time really quickly. I also would have forgotten about that gem if I didn't die, so I guess it was meant to be. Alright. Gonna be able to catch that gem. Gonna go for these three. And it's just a lot of triple movements, as you saw right there. Alright, just gonna wait that carefully out. I figured one thing I should mention, that maybe if I didn't make it very clear, is that Frogger is a game where you may be hopping one place and you think you're safe, but then you just, you know, you die. You can be halfway on one platform and still, you know, die. Even though, like, the second time you do the exact same thing and it looks the same. You look safe, and then it is, so... Again, platforms are just a suggestion. They do not work consistently. The same goes for moving objects too. Actually, those fireballs, fun fact, if you were to hop just at the right timing, you can hop through the fireballs. I've done it a few times. I'm not going to show it in the marathon because I've already tested the fish. I do not want to test the fireballs. Alright, we got a few sections of this B room right here. I'm just gonna kind of wait it out. Alright, got another section right here. Let's see if I can get fast cycles. Yes, I do. And a couple of triplets on our way to the next level here. We're coming up on 4-4. And this level here, in any percent, it is one of the most brutal and most punishing levels because there are a few precise inputs that can just kill entire runs. In all gems, there's a bit more leeway for what you get done, and you'll get a pretty good look at that right now. And I'm just going to kind of take my time and not go too crazy here. We got to see what it's like to go a little bit too hard in the juice department. Ice Caves was a great example of that. There we go, got the last gem there. These next two levels are a little bit more relaxed by comparison, so... And off we go. Alright. Got a bit of waiting on these locks here, so...
Alright, well, mind if I give a incentive update?
Yeah, go for it.
Alright, our next incentive to upgrade the category of the next run, Ultimate First Age of Darkness for 90% to all quests, all aliens. We're still at just 15 out of 150, so we need $135 more toward that by the beginning of the next run if we want to see that upgrade happen. I'd really like to see that happen, so make sure you get the donations in. P-Fund is a wonderful cause for those donations to be going to.
Yeah, yeah. Alright. This level here, in any percent, it has some of the most satisfying movements. All gems is kind of similar, with a little extra steps because of all the gems that are kind of just hidden in these, like, what I like to call crawl spaces. There's a good number of them here. This is one of them. We got another one coming up right here. Gonna kind of just wait for the bees, because sometimes I do not catch the right cycles. Just grab that out of safety's sake. And, ooh, okay. Got a little too relaxed. That's fine. We're fine. Alright. Second to last. Bat spider lair. This one here, the first half is relatively relaxed. We get some time to sort of think before we go into the absolute brutality that is World 5, the Mines. This section particularly here gives us some time to rest. We get to think. The spider is just kind of doing its thing, but once it gets past, it's go time. So off we go. Bunch of triplets. We gotta go real fast. Alright, just wait that spider out a little bit. And Death Warp will get us back here. I was on target for a good train, but I was just going to play it safe. Whoa, hold up. That was a misinput. Shoutouts to misinputs. Alright, one more world left to go. And in all gems, this is one of the scariest worlds you can possibly be on. In any percent, it's just a matter of conquering the nerves. In all gems, there are so many different, like, moving platform jumps you have to do, and this exemplifies, like, you have to be on a moving platform at the right time, otherwise you're just dead. There's, like, nothing you can do about it. And that is why all gems becomes very punishing, because it's difficult enough at the beginning, but it gets way more challenging at the end, especially when you're on world record pace. Just quickly grab that. Looks like I grabbed everything there. I was doing a bit of a sanity check to make sure I didn't forget anything. And then also, I don't know what these things are that... These, amalgamations that are just kind of crawling across the void that is the pits below. Yeah, never ever been able to figure out what they are, but they're there. Alright, another set of gems collected. We're getting to one of the toughest levels in this game. Right here. We'll see how I do. We're gonna get some serious time for this one. Lots of precise movements here. Cut that a little early, but I didn't get punished for it. right. Okay, barely made it across. Yeah, right. One more set to go. Oh. Barely made that work. That was about to be really challenging, and as long as I get through these sets of amalgamation platforms. All right, got that without any deaths. Not often do I get the chance to do that, so that feels really great. I messed up that level several times on some of the previous world records I set this year and last year, so feels good to have I got that first try. I'll take, if there's anything to take home, it's going to be that. We have to kind of just reboard the amalgamation platform, get that gem. There's no other way to do it. It forces you to cycle that way, so... Oh, wait, hold up. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. No gem left behind. There we go. Pardon the interruption, folks. I almost forgot a gem. I almost forgot which category I was running. That would be a bad thing, wouldn't it? Alright. And in all gems, this series of platforms, while challenging, it's really just a matter of the escape. Just kind of have to wait out these platforms. A lot of platform combinations here, and that can be challenging as a casual, but we got through it just fine. There's one last level to go, and let's see how we do. Again, the first half of this level is just kind of like quickly blazing your way to the top, and then we get to do one last battle of the reverse conveyor patterns. We get to go in the opposite direction, which is going to be starting right now. We'll see if I fall to the nerves a little bit here. Nope, so far, so good. Then we have the reverse spider acquisition. We go in the opposite patterns that were intended. And then it's just 2 more sets of conveyor belts left to go. Let's see if we can get them. All right, that's one set. All right. All right, and I'm going to just wait for that spider. Time is going to be when we hit the congratulations screen. Time.
GG.
All right. That was all gems. Final time. Oh, under 25 minutes with a game over? That's not bad at all. That's fine. I'll take it. Considering the way the fish were behaving, especially on level 3-3, I expected quite a bit worse. So, yeah, I will most definitely take that to the bank. This is not an easy category, and actually, all gems, any percent I spent I spent that category grinding on and off for many years. Started way back in 2015. All gems I did not touch until the year 2020. I put a few world records in, and then I put it off another 2 years. It's just one of those categories where you really just have to be on top of everything, and you got to see a few times where I could mix up my routes here and there, but for the most part, I handled it fairly well. And the difficult levels, I mean, I rocked those out of the park, especially the ones 5-2, 5-4. Trying to think of a few others. Most of the spider layers went just fine too. So, there may have been some blips and some missteps here and there, but I think I put on a pretty good show. I won't keep y'all too long, but I do have a couple of shout-outs to give before I exit the floor for the next run. I have to first give a shout-out to the Mario Kart 64 community. They really helped me build discipline as a speedrunner, and then specifically zeroing that into the Wisconsin Mario Kart 64 community. Y'all are like a second family to me. Make my life a little bit easier when I don't have my other, family to talk to. You are my rock, and I love you all very much. Another shout out I have to give is to the Michigan Tech speedrunning crew. I had been speedrunning for about 10 years when I got to 2018, and I didn't know if I was going to continue. So, more importantly, no frogs were harmed during the development of this game. No real frogs. But yeah, like I was saying before, I didn't know if I was going to keep on speedrunning any longer. And then, a friend of mine by the name of I Am Uncle Slam and we got together, decided let's just have a small group where we do some speedruns, and that really, really inspired me to get back into it. One of the people in our club in particular is here in the crowd. Yeah, shout outs to Sean. Without him, I wouldn't have known about this event. And then finally, if you wanted to join, we do have a Frogger speedrunning community Discord. Very friendly, laid back. We're all very supportive of each other. So if you wanted a game to run, our series is always looking for more people. But in the meantime, that's it for me. I'm Ben Glass. This has been All Gems. We got another awesome run coming up. Ultima Age of Darkness. Y'all should stick around for that. But in the meantime, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for letting me run in this marathon, and thank you for watching.
If I can finish at least one run a day, I feel pretty good. It's like they've all been underestimated whenever I decide to finish them. I'll go another 40 minutes. That's fine by me. We can do that. All right. Once again, another go-through of Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color. And, Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color's got two categories. 80%, which is blisteringly fast nowadays. Very little room for error, although in a marathon setting, you take a few safer routes that make it easier to get through certain parts. In All Gems, there's just no concept of safety in certain routes. The safety will come in different ways, though, and I can certainly explain what I mean by that when I'm past the first level. So, get this started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. I'm just going to run through the first two rivers before I start talking about this game. That's why. That is precisely why. So that's not terrible, it could be worse. We lost out on one cycle. And figure that's where I start talking about, like, cycles. There's cycles for getting through certain paths in any percent, and in certain cases of All Gems as well. I got pretty lucky on a few of these in this second level so far. But like the biggest thing about cycling in this category is that certain gem sections have more leeway than others, which is not something that we have a luxury for in any percent. If you die in any percent, 95% of the time, that's the end of the run. I almost thought I was gone in that semi-auto scroller section. And that goes into another very odd property of this game, is that you can sometimes be on a vehicle or an object that kills you when you think that you're not. Oh my goodness, I forgot about these patterns. So I was a little late on level 1-1. You can see the consequences of that right away. Bit of a backup. So in All Gems, you can grab that checkpoint. So if things went seriously wrong, we're okay in that aspect, and we can pretty much make it back to that level. Oh, that was like perfectly metronomic. Almost, at least for my standards, it was. And that does bring me into another aspect of Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color. You'll notice, like, I go for a very specific set of, like, rhythms that allow you to travel quickly while still, minimizing the amount of misinputs that you have in the game. So that's another, major factor of this category, is that you are oftentimes, yourself, you know, not going as fast as the TAS would, because in the TAS's instance, a lot of the routes that the TAS hits can still be achieved with a slightly slower movement. And in that way, we kind of have the mission of, you know, finding a certain routing that can be safe while still going pretty much essentially the same pace as the TAS. So a slightly slower rhythm. You could go for 16th notes on this 4/4 meter, but instead I go for triplets. And triplets are only a slight bit slower, but they meet like at least 80% of the TAS routes that exist, which is really good in the case of this sort of run. Oh, I totally... Okay. We'll be okay here? Yes, we're fine. Little oddball pattern, just because of how things went out, and I'm gonna have to wait for this one. There was gonna be no way to make it to the finish, so we kind of just have to compromise a little bit. Only a slight bit, and you can see, I mean, that's the consequence of some of the time loss that there was in level 1. Which, out of all the levels in the early game, that's probably one of the most brutal ones. And, I guess while I mention it, each of the spider layer locations, or bat layers, I don't know, whatever they are. Ooh, that's a good backup. Now, because of where we're going in all gems, grabbing the, oh, what is it? The checkpoint in this level just isn't considered safe. So we kind of just have to forego it. And with the amount of lives that we'll collect, if we don't make too many mistakes, we should be pretty secure if things go terribly awry. The key thing is, should be, you know, in all gems, you know, you can find mysterious ways to just completely catapult a run without, you know, fully understanding how you, like, miss input sometimes. So I was kind of playing it super safe there. And that's the first of 3 levels that I like to call, like, either Shadow Tiles or Simon Says, because it kind of feels like a mix of those 2 elements. You know, they're kind of like ghost tiles, akin to that of like Morty's Gym. They're invisible and you have to memorize them. So, fairly simple once you've played the game as long as I have. In my case, I've spent, you know, 2 decades of my life learning this game casually and then from a speedrunning standpoint. So that gives you plenty of time to learn each of the patterns. So it is safe to grab that checkpoint just simply because of how long it takes for everything else to, you know, become available for the first 4 gems. I was kind of playing it safe. You could see, like, on certain gems, I was very purposefully, you know, just, like, kind of running it back and forth. And that's a sort of very safe pattern that helps you to quickly evade each of these fast-moving boulders. Now we're getting to a section, a level that is not too fun in either any percent or all gems. And you're going to kind of see that in action. I could go about this 2 ways. I'm going to take the semi-safe route. The semi-safe route is to kind of just, you know, grab 2 at the bottom, 2 at the other side, and then 2 at the top, same sort of deal. It's going from quadrant to quadrant. had to think about that for a moment. See, sometimes you'll have, like, areas where your input just doesn't go, and you kind of stand still for, like, a second or two. And you have to sort of be ready for that, so that you don't accidentally jump where you intended to, but weren't actually, so that has always been a factor in some of these levels. And we made it through just fine. And we're gonna introduce the reverse conveyor belt strat. Here it is. It's a pretty cool strat where you are able to go from left to right on the conveyors instead of right to left, which is what the game originally intended to do. Ooh, okay, that was a uncharacteristic flaw. And we're still through just fine. And we're going to be entering the ice caves next. And here we go. This is the beginning of RNG Incarnate. Made the fast cycle, so all's forgiven in the end. And the fish were good. It doesn't often happen. In all gems, it seems to be a lot worse than 90%. The ice caves are probably the most different from all of the worlds on Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color. Is the sort of rhythm is a lot less prevalent, with the exception of this one. But this is also YOLO 3, so YOLO 3 requires like a combination of just like foreseeing things that you would not normally like be on the lookout for. Like the fish, which will randomly come out at certain times and go in certain directions. You don't always have control over that, so you kind of have to just be ready to sense it in time, otherwise something like that will happen. So, the reason we call it YOLO 3 is you can book it really, really fast, but there are some instances where that's a really bad idea because you'll just get caught by the fish, no matter how you try. No matter how much effort you put in to avoid them. You'll sometimes just get caught in the crossfire, and this is a prime example of that right here. And so, even though I had that many deaths, crazy enough, we could still, you know, bring this back a lot. You might notice certain pauses in this. This was a big example of it. The fish were pretty good for me there. We managed to catch those cycles in time. Alright, now we're going to get to a level that looks very intimidating, but as long as you're on time with each of your hops, it's not too bad. Maybe the last half is where things get a little daunting. But like, in any percent and all gems, this level is pretty forgiving as far as like mistakes go. So unfortunately, we do have to spend a little time waiting. This level is one where you have like one wrong movement and you can be caught on very thin ice, so that's the last thing we want to do here. And we played it safe. Okay, it's been a while since I've been able to make a really safe pattern here. This is a really handy, like, respawn point. And as you can see, the reverse conveyor strat from level 2 prepares us for the next few worlds. Pretty solid handling of that level. that was a little scary, but we made a pretty good handling of that too, so it ended up being fine. And by spawning myself purposefully in the middle like I did there, actually makes it really easy to make it back. And with those quick patterns, we could make a very easy beeline for the finish. Good deal. And then this one's a pretty quick, you know, be ready or, you know, die trying. And that was not ready at all. And in the end, we didn't really lose much on the patterns, just simply because of how crazy this world is. This one's kind of cyclical. You have to go from one side to the other. And, yeah. I've tried to catch that barge every single time, and I failed it every single time. It doesn't seem like it's possible. Not even the task would probably be able to hit that. So I have to wait for a few of them to come out, and then we can catch that one. Ooh, I caught an early cycle. That was really good. So that's going to save a little time here. Very fortunately. As long as I don't screw up this next part. Alright. Yeah, we got the fast cycle too. That's really good. Just quickly make our way around the B. Alright, we're on our way to 4-4. Which is a relatively challenging level, no matter how you go about it. I saw a frog on the high score, which I guess the game will sometimes glitch out for no particular reason. It has a mind of its own. And we were able to quickly make our way over there. Again, one of the rare times you get to enjoy one of the most satisfying sound effects in the entire game, and that is a perfect example of that. I mean, it makes it worth going for all the gems in this instance. The designer certainly had that in mind. We got through that level pretty fine. I know it didn't look super fast, but you know, there was a death last time there, and there doesn't seem to be a very good definitive path to get through yet. It's kind of just a sort of be ready with whatever. Oh, it turns out you can make it through that cycle. Okay, well, I guess I learned a thing today. Uh-oh. Well, I missed it anyways, so I guess it doesn't all matter that much? Yeah, no, it didn't matter that much. Which is a shame, but what can you do about it? Errors happen for a reason, and that was like a perfect example of what I mean. And I just have to make adaptations on the fly. You know, you come correct, you get ready for bad stuff to happen, and then you just kind of move on. And that's the big thing about all gems, is that there's plenty of ways to move on from level to level without, you know, getting too flustered. And now we're gonna go for a pretty crazy strat here. Kind of crazy. It looks a lot crazier. Ooh, okay. I did not prepare for that. Unfortunately, that's gonna be some time loss here. Now we have to kind of, break our way back here. And, now, doesn't look too fast right now, but we still have some room to bring this back a ways. And this next part here gives us some time to think before we really, you know, hit the ground running. And also prepares us mentally for the the pressure that is World 5. The mines are some of the most intense worlds, and you just kind of have to be ready. This really gets all the jitters out. And we won't catch the train on time, but we will catch the next one. So we're doing just fine. We're doing just fine, folks. Ooh, we gold split too. Alright. So, all gems, this one's kind of ridiculous. Like, any percent's really pretty straightforward. With all gems, there are many ways to mess this up. You'll see every possible, combination here. Again, playing it fairly safe with each of these patterns. That was risky. You can actually kind of despawn off the crawlers a little bit, just enough where it will, cost a lot of time. And fortunately, that did not happen to me, which is a good thing. Alright. We're getting to one of the hardest levels in the entire game. This one here is just pure nerves, and it's all about perfection across the board. You have to be ready with certain hops at certain places. This is one of them. So we just kind of have to come up with backup strats. And that was a solid backup. Certainly could have been a lot faster, but we are alive, and that's really what matters in this category. Oh, beautiful. Alright. We got ourselves out of a pretty ugly scenario where we could have lost way more time. But because we avoided a death, we've got some breathing space in these next few levels. And this one, we actually have to purposely do a lot of waiting. There's no real good way to stop the cycles that are happening here. We just kind of have to wait for this first crawler so we can get to that gem. And then we got the next one, which is right here. And these are just, you have to just wait for it to loop back around, and then grab this one right here. The game rewards you with a checkpoint, and plenty of opportunities to get tons of lives. Like, at this point, I'm no longer worried about lives. I'm just worried about finishing the run with a competent pace. I'm actually going to purposely wait out this pattern just a tiny bit. And we got a beautiful pattern here. Yes, that was actually very nice. Alright, one more level. There's a lot that can happen wrong here, so I'm just going to grab this as if it were a marathon. A lot of this is a quick ascent up, and then we have to make our way back down as we grab all these gems at the very top. Oh! So that was not intended, but mildly inconsequential. Alright, we're gonna do a reverse cycle. I did miss it, unfortunately. So that's gonna be a little costly. So now we're gonna have to follow the spider patterns for this one here. Which, you have some breathe room for that. Alright. Now we got some reverses that are pretty chaotic. Alright, that's one. And we're gonna play pretty safe here. Time is coming up real soon. It's not by much, but it's a world record. I'd say I've properly de-rusted myself. And just under 200 attempts, too, so it's not half bad. 22:48. Certainly not bad. Alright, I mean, and that just shows you how much time save there is still available. I made a mistake, a pretty uncharacteristic mistake, with the cycles on level 5. Usually I don't hop off the side, so, I mean, that tells you just how much more there is that can be, you know, saved. It's not an easy category, and I had a pretty good showing of it. So, like, the biggest thing is just the early worlds weren't all the best, and those are the types of errors that we can certainly fix. I'm gonna have to look back on the, especially on the second to last level of the ice caves. That one can be improved by a lot. The first two worlds are just nerve-wracking no matter how you go about it. That's just kind of how they work. But yeah, I did a pretty good job de-rusting this, and I'll give a combination of this and any percent runs tomorrow. I mean, it feels right, and man, it feels pretty good. It feels good to be back in this sort of thing, so yeah. So for this final run of the video submission for All Gems, I will be doing overdub commentary for the All Gems category of what is currently the world record, which is currently set at 22 minutes and 21 seconds. Out of all the runs that I'm presenting, this is the best one so far. It's a solid run with lots of potential, but it also shows that just how much can still be improved. With a category as dynamic as All Gems, the potential for mistakes is considerably higher compared to something like any percent, where a lot of the routes are considerably more static. And that staticness, while a single death in a world record attempt is going to kill off the run, in a marathon setting, any percent has a lot more room for backup routes, and there's a lot more concrete places where you can brainstorm them without having to think so quickly. With All Gems, in any particular place, you can die very quickly, and then you are forced to creatively think up, you know, various different ways to get yourself out of a jam. In the case of Frog Pond, there certainly is plenty of opportunities where you have to be ready to improv stuff on the fly. Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color is one of those games where, you know, hitboxes, they're bigger than you think. There's quite a bit more space in between them, and so what you think might be good enough might not fly in any other, you know, instance. Everything does feel like it's extended in its hitboxes just a little bit further than you think it. And that includes Frogger itself, but that doesn't even necessarily guarantee you have a perfect understanding of how Frogger works, because in certain other instances, it can feel like Frogger's hitboxes or hurtboxes, you know, are just slightly shifted in one direction or the other. So it's not like you can perfectly say, oh, I'm going to be safe when I'm just halfway on this lily pad, because it's very likely there's a 50-50 chance of living and or, you know, losing a life. So with those sorts of chaotic factors in play, All Gems does become so much more considerably dynamic as a result of that. And so just being on your toes and having the world record down to a science as far as routing goes is important, because backups in All Gems are never easy to go through with, and you're oftentimes having to let your creativity flow, being ready to make very instantaneous decisions. And that can make worlds like the already difficult Frog Pond, which is the first world, all that more difficult, especially on a level like 1-6, where good cycles are contingent on not making a single mistake on the first 5 levels. And if you do, then you have to be ready to make sacrifices in terms of time, and picking cycles that you know are going to be, while slightly slower, still just as safe. what we currently have on this run is considered to be a pretty safe route. It allows you to collect all the gems, take a little bit of time to, backtrack just a little bit to reboard onto the logs, and then, head back. Barring an unusual error like that one here, I was, on the right track to be able to finish just a little bit faster. What you got to see was a bit of an unusual glitch. It doesn't show up very often. It's called the Phantom Log glitch, and it was discovered by a tool-assisted member of the community by the name of Cool Kirby, where in certain very particular and unusual places, I don't have a great sense for it, you can sometimes just temporarily sit on the water for a little bit before losing a life. Sometimes it can last forever, but with just how unusual and mysterious it is, nobody, including myself, really has a firm grasp on how it operates. It did allow us to discover that there are just certain tiles where the game is attempting to check that Frogger is drowning, but it never gets the chance to check that. So there are a few levels in both 100% and All Gems where you can just sit on the water forever and ever. That doesn't result from moving logs, it just results from the fact that the game is unable to run every single one it checks at the right time that Frogger is supposed to, lose a life. So, kind of just has a bit of a freak out and decides to spare you, despite wanting to send you back to where you were before. Makes a level, set of levels like those in Frog Pond very interesting. And a lot more, unique in that sense, because there is a bit of some oversight you can take advantage of. Aside from that, it is one of the tougher worlds in the early game, although a lot tougher in any percent compared to All Gems. Once you get to World 2, which is the Gator Lair, things get a little bit easier. The sort of time that you have in between each of the boulders and, the cycles to go from, lane to lane with each of the boulders is a lot more forgiving. Their speeds are easier to react to, so it doesn't feel like it doesn't nearly feel like you have to make as many decisions on the fly, compared to, say, Frog Pond or another world I'll talk about a little bit later. In addition to that, and probably the epitome of having to make, just momentary reactions, which is, of course, ice caves. This level's a bit of a safety net, just a moment to rest a tiny bit, so long as you are hitting each of the routes and getting all the gems that you need, as appropriately. In the case of Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color, every single level in this game has 16 gems each, and you have to collect all 16 of them on all of the levels in order to accomplish what the category has in mind, which is all gems. It certainly isn't that difficult on the second world, and to a certain extent the fourth world, but the odd-numbered worlds, for some reason, are just very unforgiving. They're character builders, to say the least, because if something goes wrong, it really does go wrong. And to a certain extent, level 2.5 is capable of that same level of brutality in terms of punishing mistakes, especially with there being no checkpoint to return to. Knowing how the cycles work is so important to get it right the first time, because if you don't, you'll be dealing with a brand new set of boulder cycles or car cycles, or even in later levels minecart cycles, where you don't know what to do and you just have to take a leap of faith and trust that it's going to work out all right, which is not always true, but you have to do it in order to keep the run moving, in order to keep the pace from falling any further in. Probably the easiest aspect, once you have it memorized, which casual playthroughs really help a lot, is these, I like to call them shadow tiles, where they will show you where to go, but they'll be invisible. after playing this game casually for 20 years, I've got every single one of those patterns memorized, like, so easily now. It's just very trivialized as a result of that. So in the first level, we really didn't have to deal with them all that much, but now we get to deal with hopping on conveyor belts in reverse. There's so many more reverse conveyor belts that we get to deal with pretty much all the time now. And that's the first, like, major example. It's one that I didn't work with all that often because it was really considered, like, task when I was originally getting started back in, mid-2020. Putting a lot more time into this game. I did a few speedruns between 2015 and 2019, but nothing to the dedication that I did, in more recent years. Like I said before, Gator Lair and the fire pits are a lot more forgiving compared to, the first world, and especially this third world. If RNG is not in your favor, this world can be one of the biggest nightmares to come to terms with, because there's this special little species of fish that you can't really properly predict. While there is RNG manipulation, and it helps to an extent when it comes to turtle cycles for emerging and submerging in the first world, the fish cycles are at that point where they feel too precise to be able to properly, call out when they're going to appear and when they're not going to appear. So every time you leap, you might not even know that a fish is there. You might not even know that the run is dead. So you're taking blind jumps. You never really know if it's going to work until you arrive. And so that's why, something especially like level 3-3, which I call YOLO 3, can be a big run killer. And in a marathon, it can be very punishing as far as time losses go. As far as other levels are, you have a lot more room for reaction in all the other levels of the ice caves. That doesn't mean you can get lazy, but it does give you a lot more room for foresight. Now, as a bit of a trade, as an exchange, you do a lot of hopping at the beginning of each of these levels, especially this level that you're seeing right now. You've got like 3 different options as to how to tackle it. You can either just go like right, left, and then back right, or, left, right, and then go back to one of the levels to cross what I think are called like Pelcharski penguins. It's really hard to tell that they're penguins in the first place. As a kid, I thought they were otters. More importantly, I was just going to mention, while I got distracted by what those animals were, is that particular cycle you saw on level 3-6 was a route that was thought of, spare the moment, the night before I had a run for Midwest Speedfest, because I really didn't have a consistent way to tackle it, and that particular route just happened to be both safer and faster at the same time, so didn't hurt to go for it. And just so happened in this world record and the Midwest Speedfest run that I was able to nail it the first time, so it's pretty cool. Level's pretty cool as well. You have an opportunity for a pretty big time save in a death warp that allows you to save a good 10 to 15 seconds. Some of these death warps have smaller time saves, but the ones in the later layers, there's a lot of time save involved in them. This does give a small taste of what moving platforms are like. The fire pits gives a very preliminary idea of how that could go down. It's not perfect, but it does give you a small taste of what's to come. And the fire pits, it's just one of those places where you kind of have to just it's a bit of a vibe check. You're always asking the following question of, am I going faster than the fireballs? Do I feel like I can tackle faster fireball cycles, or do I want to play it safe and just, not be behind the 8-ball? In certain regards, because if you wind up just accidentally jumping into a fireball, especially the big ones, you will, pace-wise and as far as having to tackle routes, be behind the 8 ball. So it's just important to sort of measure out the risk versus the reward. In a marathon, we have to take very measured approaches to how we play this game. Perfectionism is cool and it's wonderful when it works out, but in a marathon setting, you still want to be able to show like, okay, we can go fast, but we also are going to respect a lot of our hurdles and aggressors within the game. Bees that can just go faster than you think, and then you just run straight into their beeline, or fireballs, which have very fast moving speeds too. Everything here moves very quickly, so you're always learning to respect that and just let them pass by. Especially because time loss is here. If you know which right time losses to take, it really only costs like maybe 5 to 10 seconds across the entire world, which can be a good thing. This level that you see here, which is level 4-4, is one of the most difficult levels and one of the most precise levels to do in any percent. But in all gems, it's still pretty easy going. You don't really have to be in that much of a hurry. There's a bit of a few lateral sections, and as long as you don't miss input like I just did there, there's just a few lateral sections you have to do, and then it's just on your way to the next level right after. You'll see a lot of multilateral movements that are going on, especially in fire pits, and they're ones that allow you to rest a little bit in between. I don't have too much to say for a little bit because, again, this level and the following level are just a tiny bit easy going. It doesn't mean that you can just get lazy. This run punishes laziness. Frogger as an entire series punishes laziness within a millisecond of just pausing. That's why if your movements just become even the slightest bit staggered, that is when the trouble really begins. Because it demonstrates just how bad it is when you didn't anticipate when a moving object comes in contact with you, or just not being ready when the dice don't roll your way with moving platforms. Especially the logs here. Those slabs that you see, or the logs that you see on Frog Pond, 50% of the time you'll jump and be halfway on and just get killed, even though it looks safe. And then the next time you do the exact same thing again, you'll for some reason be safe. It's hard to really predict why it goes one way or another, when you would expect the outcome to be the same, but it just seems like the variability between whether you're safely on or whether you're off is not necessarily consistent. And I would consider it to be one of the more consistent elements of this game. So, and if I hadn't already mentioned it, the same is true of the hurt boxes and the hit boxes. For some reason, it seems like sometimes Frogger's hit boxes or hurt boxes are just slightly to the left at times, or slightly to the right, and it's not easy to gauge, because sometimes when you expect it to be slightly in one area, it ends up just being to the other side. So, and that's where it's just acknowledging that when a mistake happens, sometimes it's just just very slightly out of your control. And to remind yourself that the run isn't toast. Maybe you took some time loss, but you still got the chances. So quite a few cool things here too. On the very second to last, spider layer of this game, which is of course, World 4. You get a moment of rest when that spider is crossing through this big old transfer right there, but then it's just kind of go time, and you got a lot of hopping to do very quickly, what I like to call around the world, and then with a bit of a warp, with a bit of a lost life warp back to the checkpoint, and it's onwards to the mines, final world, and well, as you would suspect, it's probably one of the most challenging worlds out of the bunch. For any percent, it usually just has to do with fighting the nerfs, but because of how many moving platforms you have to like jump from, every jump on here is very precise. It's not, you can't trust that you're going to be able to make the same jump like 9 times out of 10, especially on this level right here, as you might think that you will. But again, just because of the variability of like the platforms and Frogger's hitboxes or hurt boxes, you can't trust it. You kind of have to just be ready to like, oh, I'm positioned halfway, I have to jump this much earlier, this much later, or I'm on the other direction, and vice versa. And it's those sort of things that makes a world like World 5 so much more difficult. Even though there's less levels of them, the margin for error is so much smaller compared to all the other worlds. In any percent, because of how little that you have to do with each one of them, it makes it a lot more static. But World 5 in all gems is extremely dynamic. There's a lot of places where you have to be ready to make just small changes on the fly, and you can't necessarily lay off. You always got to be like on the XL the whole way through, and you deal with whatever you get dealt. This level right here that you're seeing is one that has stopped a lot of world record runs, and the example from Midwest Speedfest and this example here I would say would be, aside from the death, which before I was about to mention that, I had only realized that the Midwest Speedfest example is the best example of how well I was able to tackle that area, because I was able to make improvisational decisions at the right time and the right place. In the case of this particular level, I wasn't quite able to feel it out in time, but that's okay, because even in the world record, I was still dying there. The best possible case scenario is that we just don't have a death, but we're not quite there yet. Soon enough, with enough practice and enough dedication, it'll eventually be a reality, and that's when we can really start talking about things like runs under the 22-minute mark, or even runs under the 21-minute marker. Again, it's just a matter of time, but it's just relies on extremely inconsistent and very unsafe methods of going from platform to platform. That's what makes this level the toughest in all gems. And even as you get past those, you still have to conquer the nerves at the same time too, because it's like, oh hey, I got through the most difficult stuff, but now I can't make a single mistake. And so these small moving platform sections, if you missed any one of those gems, that can be just a series of 5 to second time losses at a time. You want to get them all and then cross your fingers that you're just able to safely cross all the way back to the top to board that final platform, to exit the level and go into the final there. And that can be very easy to lose if you're nervous. The same is true of this level as well. Fun fact, I've had 3 world record paces on any percent that were lost to this particular level right here, just because I was so nervous and my hands get very shaky. Thankfully when you're in the middle of a marathon, there's a lot less at stake most of the time, because you're presenting how the quirks of this level work. One of the quirks, of course, is just like, as you get a bit of an internal metronome, you get a particular count for how to handle those particular reverse conveyors, which in the case are 8, 6, 8, and 5, I believe. With that, that finishes up the world record run with a time of once again 22:21, and it's a pretty solid example of what things could look like. I would say, from what I have learned of all the runs that have taken place, I would say that a good estimate to set to this would be around 27 minutes. It's a healthy medium to what I originally set for estimates when I was first getting started, which was, of course, that I originally set myself an estimate of 30 minutes when I was originally submitting this to Midwest Speedfest. Midwest Speedfest actually mistakenly
used my any percent estimate as the estimate for all gems, and so I was just a little bit nervous seeing that, but I was able to make my all gems time work under the any percent estimate, which is just so surprising. So I think, putting a nice midway between the two of them, it's like either 27 minutes or 28 minutes is just a happy medium between the two of them. So all gems is a cool little category where you get the chance to be very dynamic in the routes and the choices that you make, having the most opportunities for improvisation, and that in itself does set it nicely apart from the any percent category, which is much more static but very blisteringly fast. If you wanted to see like pure speed at its like most distilled, then that's the category to watch. But if you wanted to see like a dynamic cross between both speed and good routes, then all gems is the category to watch. And I'd like to thank the folks from Games Done Quick for considering the all gems category. I do appreciate it. It's always fun to show off these runs, and with any chance, I will get the chance to show it off, hopefully on the big stage. We'll see if the opportunity is afforded of me. But until then, thank you. I wish you all well. Until next time.